Welcome to another I Am AAPC broadcast. I am AAPC Alex from the AAPC National Office, and today I have Dominic Chavez with me. Hi, Dominic.
Hi, how are you, Alex?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Well, we met through the AAPC Facebook group,
Yes.
and you had left a comment on someone's post about Codified. You left a glowing review. We had never met before, and so this is fun to make this connection. And
Yeah.
we got to know each other a little bit offline. Dominic, I want to hear your story about how you got into medical coding and that career path that you're on right now. So would you tell us a little bit about how you found this career?
Yes. In the beginning, it probably started about 2021 after the COVID pandemic hit. Prior to that, I always worked in call centers. I always worked in customer service, I would say, and it was okay. Like I said, I'm very good with people, but I've always strived to have something in the back office. I always really wanted something back office, something that had more steady hours. And then my mom, she is in the medical administrative offices as well. She's been in the field for about 30 years, 35 years. And so she's always been an inspiration to me. And I always wanted to get into something. I just didn't know what it was. So around 2021, I'm actually Native American. I'm part of the Tohono Nation. So they do provide higher education for us, and I did know that. I just didn't want to go until I knew I had a passion for something because I kind of didn't want to waste their resources. I wanted to do something that I knew I was going to get a career in. So I remember I initially started out and I was like, I told my mom, I'm ready to go to school. I want a career. I don't really want a job anymore. I want a career. And so she obviously knows me and she knew I'm amazing at speaking, customer service, kind of talking to customers, and working computers. And so she was like, I think you'd be a great biller. So that's kind of how we started. And because my mom has done billing, my mom's actually done everything in the field, like that you could think of: check in, check out, scheduling, patient benefits, anything, payment posting, all the way, everything except for coding. So she said she was always scared of the books when she started out. But I ended up first trying to go into a medical healthcare administration, uh, like an associate's degree.
Okay.
But it didn't really seem fit for me. Again, I credit this to my mom because she really has been in the field, so she knows more of the ins and outs of the field. And so she kind of asked me, what did I want to get, like, did I want to quickly get into the field and learn things? Because she knew that, you can go through schooling and everything, but you also need to have that foundation of actually working in the healthcare field. And so she kind of asked me which route I wanted to take. And I kind of wanted to learn something that wasn't so strenuous, so long, to help me get into the field. And so my mom said to look into billing and coding instead. And so I went and I looked into billing and coding, and I came across Carrington College. So I started at Carrington College and I did their medical billing and coding program. I completed their program August 2022. So I got a medical billing and coding certification. And at that time, I didn't really know much about the field in coding itself. So um, they were offering a CBCS, a certified billing and coding specialist through the NHA. And I thought that was it. That was going to be all I needed. I'm good. And so when I actually did the Carrington College program, billing I didn't fall in love with as much as coding. Coding was just something that really, really stuck with me, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome!" And this was before, well, it was in the middle of the pandemic, but this was before I was really looking into working in the field. But then when I really looked into coding itself, and I seen that coders had been working from home way before COVID, and I just thought that was awesome. Like, it's very intriguing to me to see that, you know, at this time that everybody was running, you know, wild, trying to figure out how to get, you know, work Zoom, work this, and, you know, a lot of jobs had to come home. You know, I seen it firsthand with my mom, and she's obviously not a coder, so she didn't work from home, and then they transitioned to home, and she was freaking out. And you know, I was looking at all these videos of coders, and they were already working from home, doing their thing, and they're used to this. So I was really interested in that, and fell in love with the coding side of it. But I did notice, so I did go through and I got my CBCS certification with the NHA, but I realized that at least in my area specifically, they're not looking per, um, particularly for the CBCS with NHA. And I do credit a lot to Contempo Coding Victoria Mull. She it was a really good education experience for me to understand the field and what they were looking for. So because, you know, she was one that told me to, like, you know, directed everybody of her followers to go to your local area on Indeed and see and type in medical coder and see what certifications they're asking for. So you really know what what you need. And so what I seen was that they were asking for the CPC was the main bread and butter. That was the first thing that they needed, that they wanted or were looking for. And then sometimes here and there a CCA, a CCSP. But I had kept seeing AAPC. I kept seeing CPC. It was very much in the forefront of the coding and billing requirements. You know, that they wanted somebody to have that certification or that knowledge per se. So I, after having my the Native American tribe, they paid, you know, my full ride to go to school, and it was thousands and thousands of dollars at Carrington. And then so me having to go back and ask them again, like, hey, can you send me to school, and I want to go back to this AAPC and get a certification. Well, to them, since, and I had to understand that they weren't coding specialists per se, even in the medical field, you know, because this is just the tribe that is doing the higher education. So when I had asked them, I wanted to go to CPC, they were like, we just got your certification. Like, we paid all this money. What are you talking about? You're
Yeah.
fine. And so I actually had to set up a meeting and do explain to them kind of. So I kind of made like a short synopsis, like a little PowerPoint kind of thing, and to just let them know what the generalization of coding was and what they were looking for. And I pulled up some screenshots of some jobs postings in my area and remote, and showed them firsthand, like, what this is what they're looking for. This is what the job description and the requirements are showing. It's not saying CBCS. Very, very rarely. I think I've seen one job posting with the CBCS. And I won't discredit the Carrington College program that I had, because I always tell everybody that I run into that it was that foundation that I felt like I needed, because I had never been in healthcare before. So prior to this, I had never done anything healthcare, didn't know what a doctor's order was or anything. And so I do believe that that really helped me build the structure of understanding healthcare. But CPC was when you know, AAPC was very much more coding based, very much billing based, very much revenue cycle. And that's where my career goal was going to. So I asked them for the money, and they were very happy to pay. And after I explained to them what I needed, and they did, they paid for the schooling. And I actually ended up getting my first opportunity with the tribe. So that's where I'm actually working
Oh,
now, is with the tribe.
that is awesome. That is so good to hear. And the Carrington College program, you wouldn't, that kind of gave you a taste of, hey, this is a path I want to take. It
Yes.
wasn't in vain.
Right. No, 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 not at all. It was I would say they taught me the foundational knowledge. And they did get into some coding and some billing, but it was not as in depth as I felt like I needed on the coding side, you know, and they definitely taught me enough, I feel like, to start out in the field. But I've always been a really passionate person, very go-getter. My mom calls it an obsessive personality I have, but when I really enjoy something, or I'm really intrigued by something, uh, I get obsessed with it. And so then, I wanted to do my own research and knowledge. So I spent countless of hours just researching on my own, trying to see what everything was, how many different specialties you could code for in coding and what it really offered. And it was, it was the turning point in my life that I would say that really changed my life for the better, I would say.
Dominic, may I ask how old you are now?
Yes. So I am 28.
You're 28. So you were, 2021, you were 24, 23.
24, 23.
Okay, in that range. Okay.
Yes.
And that is, some of your peers may have gone to college and taken that path, but there are also many who are still trying to discover what path is open to them.
Yes.
And thanks to your mom, who she kind of guided you along in that, though.
Yes.
So,
It's very much it's a path that I see for a career, like, because I tend to take a step back on things, and I want to, as much as I'm obsessive and I'm really, I love this, I really like to take a step back and see the bigger picture of things. And when I saw how much this field is growing, how much everything in regards to coding itself for me um, was just moving forward. It wasn't moving backwards. And it really intrigued me. Again, like I said, I really love, computer work. And I honestly didn't think it was something that, it's very, there's a lot it has to entail coding. And it's not something that, you know, you can learn in a day. It's something that you have to really take a passion for and learn. But it is such a rewarding career, I would say. And so I technically started out in medical records.
okay.
So I had just finished my Carrington College certificate, and I think that was what really helped me. That and being Native American really did help me get into my tribe, because we have Thana Atam Nation Healthcare here in Arizona, in Tucson, and so I actually am a patient there. So I have been a patient there my whole life, and it was just awesome to be able to provide to give back to my people in a way that, and then also I was able to get educated and find a specific path for me, and then found that they were able to help push that along, in their healthcare field. And so I started out in medical records, and I was there from November 2022. It's when I first started in healthcare. And January 14th, I got hired as a coder, and I had not even had my certification yet. But I think that I was really just very much a sponge and willing to learn anything that they were trying to teach me. And my supervisor she was an interim supervisor for medical records. So she was just filling in until somebody came into that supervisory position. But I obviously was not in healthcare, so I didn't know interim and this and that and the titles. So I didn't realize that she was actually overseeing the entire revenue cycle, because I was in
Wow.
medical records. And so when I first came in, I had told her my aspirations, what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into coding. And I just feel like it worked so perfectly, because for me, they hadn't really hired or opened up hiring in the coding department for 6 or 7 years. And then they finally opened up some more positions that they were able to get right around that time when just got into the field. And they said, I said, I don't have my certification, I'm scared, I don't want to mess up anything or do
Yeah.
anything, that was my thing. And they guided me along the entire way. And I will say it's very rewarding, but it is very, very complex what we do, because we are a multi-specialty facility. So we do inpatient, outpatient. So we do all inpatient services because we have a hospital, and then we have outpatient. So what we do is, because we obviously are part of Indian Health Service, so we provide free healthcare to Native Americans and Alaska Natives. And so I find that there's a high volume. We have a high volume of patients that come in or come in consistently. More, I find the fact that they're not we're not having to charge these patients to be able to get seen, so they can come in anytime they need to get checked out, even if they, it's not something that holds them back or hesitates them from getting seen. So it does bring up our volume of visits that we have, but we probably service 50 to 60 different clinics outpatient, and then we do dental as well. So that was a whole nother thing I had to learn.
I have so many questions for you, Dominic. We're going to peel back the layers of that entry point into this path for you. First off, you mentioned that your mom was like, well, you're a people person and customer service, like all of that's natural for you. But I've never worked as a coder myself, but I know that many consider themselves introverts and the like, that it's just you doing your thing as a coder or biller. What is the day-to-day work like, and do you still get interact much with others?
So I'm actually an in clinic. So I do not work from home. I work 100% in person, um, which when I first started, I did strive to get into a work from home position. And I believe that's somewhere where I want to go, because my day to day is very much by ourselves. We're in our cubicles. We do our work. Um, it's very much, how do you say, you kind of control your own day in a sense. Like we pick up our own work. We don't have somebody dispersing work to us. It's very much on ourselves, to get our work done. You can sit there and not do anything, but it'll catch up to you in a week when you run your reports. So it was really, you have to take on that initiative yourself, that self initiative to do work. And that's what I really liked about it. I will say too, though, like if there's anybody struggling with, anxiety or depression or anything, that's what I had went through myself. So right before the pandemic, I'd say for about 4 years after call centers and working the customer service, I had just like a lot of anxiety. I didn't know where it was coming from. Got really depressed for about a year or two, and I credit my family. Family is everything to get you through, and just to just speak and to let people know, even if it is a stranger, just letting somebody know, other than just holding everything in, is what helped me. But then finding a path, a career path where, yes, I am a people person and I'm starting to get that mojo back, I guess you could say. But, it was a work in progress, and for a while I was very introverted and kind of pushed into myself a little bit. But I'm so grateful that coding allowed me to just go to work, do my work, do a good job. I didn't have my phones consistently ringing all the time. I was able to research. I was able to intrigue myself and entertain my brain in a way that I wasn't thinking about this or thinking about that. I was focused on coding, and it really helped get me out of that depression. And that's why I have such a passion for coding. I have such a passion for AAPC, is because it took me out of such a dark time that, and now I'm not only did it take me out of a dark time, but it pushed me so much further than I had ever been in my past, in my life, in my career. It helps me talk to people. It gives me a sense of purpose, knowing that, yes, I'm not, maybe not doing the patient care side, which I don't want to do. I don't like the patient care side of it, but I'm making a difference, every day. And that's really what helps.
I love it. I love it. You also spoke earlier about knowing that you liked coding more than billing. Your first course, do Kerrigan, was it sounds like a all wrapped into one, both. Um,
Yes.
and for someone who may be watching that doesn't know the difference, could you just share a little bit about that difference and how you knew coding was for you versus billing?
Yeah. So, well, for billing is more of the payment side of things, the insurance side of things. So, coding, I would say, is the first aspect that gets touched after the patient is seen and is documented by the provider. So, it first has to be coded before it can even get sent out to the billing side for them to bill it. And in the beginning, I always combine the two, and try to think coding and billing, you're a coding and billing specialist. And that may be true for some smaller practices. But I really learned the difference and the separate side of both coding and billing. And so the coding side per se is more research based, I find. You're trying to, what I always, there's a saying that I like, I really like to hold on to. It's by another YouTuber. Her name is Medical Coding by Blue. Her name is Blue. She always stated that, with medical coding, we almost have to know what doctors know without ever having gone to medical school. And so that intrigues me in the fact, and if it intrigues anybody else, that, you you get to almost be in the room with the provider without even being in the room with the provider. I think that really intrigued me. And we I like guidelines. I like rules, and that's what coding was really more based on. I don't have a lot of experience in building the billing side because I came in medical records, just came into coding, but I work really closely with the billing department in processing claims and working denials that we have that come through coding wise. So I think both are extremely, extremely important in pushing forward and getting the doctors paid and getting the services and getting the money so that we can provide services, more services or adequate services to the patients that we service. And so I think both are extremely important, but you just kind of have to find the difference in what you like. I'm very research based. I've always been a reader. I like to read books. And so finding that I could go to work and read and get paid for it was pretty awesome for me. And it was really intriguing, I feel like I'm going through the process with the patient from the time they get seen to the time they leave. And again, like I said, I'm multi-specialty coder. So for the past 4 months, I've been doing inpatient just by itself, just inpatient. I was the only inpatient coder. So that too is just teaching me so much more about what entails coding and digging more into doctor's orders and attaching this diagnoses and understanding this diagnosis goes with that procedure and this is why they're doing this, and it kind of just connects all the links for me in a way.
Okay. Yeah, Dominic, you mentioned that after Carrigan College, while it helped you so much, you knew you needed the CPC. You went back to it sounds like the tribal board to see if they would allow scholarship for education to get you certified through AAPC. They approved that. Tell us about that. After you were approved, what course did you take after that and that path to certification?
So I ended up taking the instructor based led, the whole package. I ended up getting with the what was it, the Practicode. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I got the Practicode package. I did the instructor led. I wanted to get the highest package that I could with the most of anything, especially if they were offering to pay. I was going to use that, as leverage for me to get as much education and as much information as I could. Another thing that I did want to add in there was, and this is why I love AAPC as a group so much, is that I actually ended up applying for a scholarship you guys were offering. It was $1,000 scholarship towards your coding certification. And you had to write like a story about what coding meant to you and why you wanted a certification. And so I ended up writing a letter to you guys, and I did get picked for the scholarship. And so my tribe was extremely happy. They were, and it was like, hey, here's an extra 1,000 so that you guys don't have to pay. They're like, absolutely. And so I knew that this was the company for me. the credentialing place that I wanted to get my CPC certification with, because obviously, you go through your AAPC or your AHIMA. But when I really, like I said, I'm a researcher, so I researched everything, saw that you guys were offering this. I try anything, so I'm like, oh, let me just send in a letter. You never know, and I really do like to share my story with others, because I feel like, you never know who you can help. And so I did. I expressed my story and let them know, the struggles of being LGBTQ, and what led me to wanting to be in coding. And I happened to get that $1,000, which went towards the CPC online based certification. And
Dominic, so when you applied for that scholarship, you received it, and then did you just go on the website like everybody else and pick your curriculum and what type of course you wanted?
yes, so it was just $1,000 towards any curriculum course. And so what I did was, for the tribe, they wanted a quote. And so you guys actually offer that service on the website. So when you actually go on to pick a course that you want, that was all my picking, my choosing. I was able to go online, get everything, made the whole package together, and then instead of purchasing it, it said provide a quote.
Okay.
And so I just clicked that. It gave me a PDF form that I could send over to whomever was gonna assist paying for this, which was amazing for me, because I didn't have to go in and screenshot and give them, another presentation. I just put it all together, sent it over to them, and then they contacted there was a lady that I was working with when I got the scholarship. They gave me like a purchase order for $1,000, and then the Native American tribe does purchase orders as well, so they connected with each other,
Okay.
and submitted the rest of the payment over
That was it.
to the AAPC, and that was it. And I
Okay.
started my course.
All right. So how long did it take you to complete just your basic CPC training before the exam?
So it took me about 7 months.
Okay.
I'd say it definitely took me a little bit longer, because I was coding and learning coding while trying to get my CPC certification. Um, so it took me some months, going through, um, and I did get some extensions. I paid for some extensions, which it's okay. Like, I always let people know, if you need that extension time, it's there. They offer it for a reason. So I did get some extensions, just because I'm the kind of person that I wanted to make sure I had every note I needed in my book. I wanted everything that I'm the tabber, the kind of person that has all the notes, and color coded, and stars over
Yeah.
here, and yes, that's me. And so I took me about 6 to 7 months, and then I tested, and I actually passed the first time.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a relief, I'm sure.
Yes, I was so scared. I was so scared. And when I told my supervisor, we were actually at a conference for work. It was a customer service conference where they hold at the casino, because the tribe owns the casino there. So they always hold a yearly conference for all employees to go. And it was literally that day when we were sitting there in a seminar with everybody, all the employees, 150 employees. And I was trying to refresh, because it said AAPC, you got your test results, but it didn't tell you what they had. And so I was trying to refresh, and I didn't have any service in the casino. And I was so mad. And I was like, is this God telling me that I didn't pass and I shouldn't, And then I was like, nope, I got to go. So excuse me, I have to go outside. And I went outside, and I kept trying to find signal. And then I got my signal, and it said I passed, and I almost fainted, because it was really something that I loved, So I just couldn't believe that I passed the first time.
Where did you take your exam? At a local chapter, or was electronic exams were available then?
Yes, I actually took a proctored exam. So I was one of the last ones to take the paper exam.
Okay.
And so I did mine at Brookline College. So it was just held at a college here in Tucson. And we had two ladies that were there proctoring the exam. And I did it all in person. And it was hard. I think me being a computer whiz kind of person would have probably done better on the computers, just because I had this bright idea that I was going to do my test and just focus on the questions, and then bubble in at the last 30 minutes. No, that was not a good strategy for me. And there was a guy next to me taking his test. I don't know what test he was taking, but I could just feel his eyes beaming. Like, is this guy really not bubbling his answers in? Like what is he doing? And and he wasn't saying nothing. I could just feel it. I don't know. Maybe it was just my craziness thinking, but and then I'm like, nope, I got it. I'm good, whatever. And then they were like 30 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't have my question. So I went and I wanted, because I'm very neat. So I wanted them all perfect with a little square and colored in. That was not going to be the case. So I just went in and I, did as many as I could. And I got all the answers down. And then I attributed to that, oh, well, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. But I was just being so negative. And turns out I ended up passing it. And like I say, it's really, if anybody was going to not pass it, I felt like it was going to be me, because I always overthink. I always, make these little strategies that never really work out, but it did. It worked out. It worked out for me.
And what advice do you have to a prospective, a future examinee, having been through that? Is there something you would have done, like maybe studied a little different or studied more of this section or that section? What advice and perspective can you give, Dominic?
So with the paper books, and you having your paper books there, I would say a big strategy I would have is to personally, this is for me, I would say tabbing really did save me some time in the test. This was for my paper test. Adding little notes in for myself, like for sepsis, knowing which code comes first. Because, I would really say my biggest advice would be to study your guidelines, because that's really what the test is testing you on. And so I'm kind of like the resource, which I didn't really expect to be the resource at work, because I'm a novice. I've only have 2 years, a little bit over 2 years of coding experience, and I have other coders that have been there years, and they come to me and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why are you asking me a question? But they tell me, like, your stuff, what you're in. And the way I express it to people, and I let them know, like, you don't spend time, worrying and hanging up about just this one specific section of the book. Like, read your guidelines. And I always tell them, take off your coding hat, because if you are a coder, and I will say this to anybody who's in as a coder and is studying for their CPC certification while actively coding at work, a test is completely separate from coding itself. You got to take that coding hat off and put your testing hat on, because what they're doing is they're testing to see if you know those guidelines. They want to know, and that's why for me, like, I always tell my coworkers, when they were studying for their tests, or they're still studying for their CPCs, and I tell them, take a step back, always take that step back and look, because what they're doing is they're testing to see if you actually know the material. Not, oh, okay, this is this procedure, and what's the code for that? Obviously, that's coding in itself, but they're going to throw in a guideline. They're going to throw in, something. They're going to throw in all these times and this to make you, but you really have to look at it and take a step back and see, what are they trying to question me on? What is this question about? And maybe I've always been a good test taker in that sense. So I've always been able to take off a regular hat and put on a testing hat and be like, okay, I'm taking a test. And this now is a test of all the knowledge that I have put together through all this schooling that they've given me. But I'll say that pay attention in class, really, really pay attention in all the knowledge and everything that all of the teachers and the anybody who's trying to give you any information on the course, any instructors, the knowledge is there. I mean, the everything is there for you. You just have to absorb it and take it in, and spend some time outside of just your schooling. I will always say that's what helped me. Was I spent 30 minutes at home, not just with my instructor, but just to question certain things that I had. It's okay to question it. Go on and take some research, but always heed the warning and know that information can be outdated. So always pay attention to the information, because that was one thing that I did in the beginning. Was I just look, oh, I seen this forum. Oh, but that forum was in 2017, so kind of always look at the forum, look at the dates that everything comes in, and do your own research, vet any information that you need for yourself, so that it can make sense how it makes sense for you.
Yes. Dominic, you mentioned several times that you're so grateful for AAPC and what they've done for you. And I'm just talking outside of the study and the credential, but you made those statements as like just a broad feeling. Tell me about that.
So I would say that AAPC is more than just a coding or a billing or revenue cycle. It's a sense of community that I felt like I needed. They're like-minded people that were around me. Um, they're people like you, like others that see the drive in the community. It's not just a place to go get your credentials and that's it. Like I have done so much. I have met so many people. Like I said, I never thought I would be able to get $1,000 scholarship, and that was not okay. And you have to do this, and you have to get that. Like it was for any of my choosing. It was for whatever course I wanted, and that's what I love is that AAPC is that sense of community, and it pushes you to be your better self. And especially in the medical field like that. And so I think that AAPC is more of a community based place rather than just a credentialing certification center. Um, they build family, and I truly believe in that. And it might be cliche for others to feel that saying, but it really, really, really is so true. I was very introverted. Like I said, I was an extrovert, and then I suffered with this anxiety and this depression, and I introverted myself and didn't talk to anybody, didn't have no friends, and then got introduced to this AAPC, and I have so many acquaintances, so many friends, so many people that have been willing to help me and want to hear my story, and I want to hear their story. And I genuinely think AAPC is so much more than just getting your credentials. It's a lifestyle. It's a life choice. It's a family. It's forever. It's friends.
Awesome. So awesome. Hey, you mentioned that your package that you purchased included Practicode.
Yes.
And many take that as a path to have their apprentice removed, but you didn't need that because you were already coding. Did you complete the Practicode program?
I did complete the Practicode program, and again, it was more for me, not just to get the A off, which I ended up getting my years. You know what I mean? I had my years and then my Carrington schooling to get my apprenticeship off, but it was for those real life case studies. You know what I mean? And it was more than what I was getting at work too, because you can specialize in certain things. And granted, I'm so grateful that with the Thana Automation Healthcare, we service so many different specialties. But there are those few and far in between that we don't service that I had cases for in there. And for me, I was again, and it's okay for any coder to just be, you want to get into the field, you want to get your job, and you want to just be steady, and you want to just do that is totally okay. Because I'm right there with them. You know what I mean? We all want stability. We all want to just be able to do our job and do it well. But Practicode helped me. And yes, it felt like, you were going home to do more work after working, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I credit that to being at 2 years now and being the go-to coder for my team, and there are some that are way more years than I have, but I have credit going and taking that extra initiative and that step to do the Practicode, because when they do come across a question or something, they'll come to me, and they know that if I don't have the answer, I'm going to research it to find it. But I will give a lot of credit to Practicode. It is not easy. It's not something that you can just go and plug in code and yep, I got it. No, it's really, you're going to have to understand, like there was we don't do urology. There was urology stuff in there. There was, we don't do anything cancer. We don't do anything oncology related. There was oncology stuff that was in there, anesthesia stuff, so those were the things that I was able to touch on that I wasn't touching on at work. And also, I would say that they make you think in a broader aspect than what you're doing in your locality, because, and there's always a difference in coding for a certification exam and then coding for a locality, and knowing, especially with Indian Health Service. So with Indian Health Service that we are a government-based service, so it's completely different the way we bill. Certain things that we code is completely different. We have all-inclusive rates that we get instead of a fee-for-service. We bill AIR, all-inclusive, which is whole different services that we do. And it's a learning curve, but I will credit the Codify and even just the prepping for the certification, because I was coding while prepping for my certification, that I had to learn two separate things, at the same time. And that was a reason why it took me a little bit longer to get my certification, but I did. I got it.
I love it. All right. Well, As we wind down, Dominic, you are not, oh, I don't think you're a one-dimensional person and just all coding all the time. What are your hobbies out of work?
So I like to sing, I like to dance and act. So I did singing, dancing, and acting when I was in school. I did teach hip hop, ballet, jazz, and tap classes. So I did that. I am a certified makeup artist. So I did get certification courses when I was in school. In high school, it was through a JTED program. So I like to do weddings. I those things I do on my free time. I do makeup. I'm like to do nails, just a lot of cosmetology things. Um, yeah, anything music and eccentric kind of related, I do. I do like to dance, but sports is not my thing. It's not, but I'll go out there and I'll play. I like to be active. I like to make my life more than just, like you said, one thing. It's not just coding. It is a big part of my life is coding. But yes, having a hobby really helps me push the two and just, have a healthy lifestyle.
Yes. All right. Well, Dominic, thanks so much for sharing your story. I'm sure it'll inspire many. And
Thank you.
yes, and I'm so glad that we were able to cross paths. And I think this is a testament to the AAPC online communities.
Yes.
Get in there, meet people, and it could lead to your first job. It could lead to your next job.
It sure could. Yep. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it. Thank you for the
Dominic.
community.